Welcome to the channel, friends. So today's video is going to be a Corvette update video for those of you guys that are interested, and I want to follow up with the results of how I finished the Kong LS9 Snout and how I brought it up to my spec. So I'm going to go over everything I've done. I mean, in the past 2-3 weeks, there's been a lot of stuff to do with the car. I didn't tape a lot of it because it's just a lot of tedious, work that's, I had to just take care of and get out of the way. So as you can see here, I have the Supercharger and the Snout. Both are hand ported by me. All the work I've done myself here on this car. So what I did was I went ahead and did a max effort porting on the blower, a Synergy Motorsports style hand port. The runners, the injector bulges, as you can see, they're all trimmed down nice so they look like a nice bullet shape. I also went ahead and opened up the diamond and flared it. Obviously the inlet is opened up to the maximum size you can have, absolute maximum, without busting through any of these walls here. And it's also kind of cut back and relieved here. And it's got a nice contour all the way into the rotors. Now it's going to provide maximum airflow to the rotor itself, all the way around to the backside of this cast material here on the Supercharger. So the stock one kind of ended here and went straight back. Well, now this kind of allows for a great amount of relief behind the inlet bearings and all that area to allow a lot more airflow and essentially push more air through the heads. Now, as you can see, I went ahead and painted everything my own color. That's a black metallic paint, high temperature paint. I'm not going to go over details on that, but it looks great. It's got a little metal flake in it, as you can see here. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but it's got some nice metal flake. It's got a little bit of a glitter to it, so it looks really nice. So I guess we'll keep on going with the Supercharger housing, and then I'll go over the Snout after. Let me just move this aside. It's very heavy now that the rotors are in. I also went ahead and replaced all the bearings, everything. Snout bearings, even the couplers. The couplers are brand new. Bearings on the inlet. Rotor pack is fine. All I did was change the oil in the rotor pack, and I did not even crack open the casing in the back. This was out, but I did not remove the cover. I just changed the oil. The oil seemed nice and clean, but I went ahead, since I'm doing a full rebuild on it. I did not need it, but I went ahead and did it anyways because I've done all this work on the Supercharger, all this porting, that I wanted to make sure I have fresh new bearings front to back. So, max effort on the blower, brand new intake manifold gaskets on the bottom here that I riveted on. And if you guys have been following me on Instagram and things like that, you would know that I've gone ahead and done something special here. As you can see, that's not normally there. This is the IAT2 sensor. I've relocated it mid-bank because I think that's the best spot for it. Since I'm running the Kong dual pass lid, okay, the Kong lid has a very bad spot for the sensor, which is right back here towards the back, and it's in a dead air spot, which has the potential, well, actually it does read falsely hot because it's in a dead air space and not in a direct stream coming out of the bricks. So relocated that sensor, really happy with that. A lot of custom machine work on this done by myself. You're not going to find this on your regular blower or any blower from anybody else. It's just not going to be there. As well as 8 direct injection ports directly into each runner. So as you can see, I have them plugged off and sealed right now because I'm not going to be using them. But it will be for meth injection or water meth or just water. I don't know yet. Okay, depends on when I get it tuned, what the outcome is. So as you can see, the other side as well, it's threaded for the nozzles and plugged. There's 8 here, and I did something special in this. This is probably the first time that someone has ever done this. I went ahead and also threaded in each corner for meth water nozzles, as you can see there. So this right here goes through the snout. As you can see there, there's 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. Now that's to install meth nozzles directly, so post rotor, pre-brick. So that's going to inject, this is more likely a better situation for water injection, because it's going to inject water through the brick and have a greater cooling capacity. Not so much meth. Okay, meth is kind of corrosive and it will, you know, leave a chalky finish and possibly could eat at your bricks. Meth you want to inject after the bricks. So these ports here will be great for that. So I haven't really decided what I want to do yet, but I went ahead and did all the machine work and did all 12 ports right now and plugged them off. So as you can see here, the snout gets a port right through the snout flange. The other one is right here, so it's not included on the flange. So a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of custom work, details that, like I said, you're not going to find on any other blower. And I'm going to use this as a prototype to you know, try out different configurations and different power levels and things like that. So, with that being said, I mean, I think this is a great platform. It's a ported stock blower. This is not a 2650. So I want to give the 2650 a good run for its money, for sure, with this setup. This should produce some great power, and I'm really liking the outcome and the results so far in the machine work and all the porting that I did. So that's the blower. Like I said, 12 custom direct injection and pre-brick post-rotor nozzles. I'll give it a close-up once again. You guys that haven't seen it. Alright, so moving along to the snout, I went ahead and spent quite a bit of time refinishing this to the point where I was happy. If you take a look at my original video overviewing the Kong snout, you'll understand why. But this took a lot of blending and finishing to blend in all the way around this throat area and the flange to clean it up. I had this trimmed back to meet the Nick Williams profile for the throttle body. That way this butts up against the Nick Williams and it doesn't have these stupid corners sticking up, which is, I think, is completely ridiculous. If most people are going to be using Nick Williams throttle bodies, this flange should be modified or adjusted and cut to that profile. But anyways, I went ahead and trimmed that out and took care of that on my snout. That way it's a seamless kind of contour and shape onto the snout, and it doesn't look out of place. So I went ahead and installed a 2.35 Grip-Tech pulley. This is on a Lingenfelter 10 bolt hub, I believe. I think it's 10 bolts, 10 screws. And I went ahead and pinned that to the shaft. Now, most people don't do this, but on my car, I'm going to pin that hub because there's a possibility of that thing spinning, the hub spinning on the shaft, because it's just a press fit. I mean, it takes a hydraulic press to press it on, but guess what? Under a lot of pressure, that thing can spin. So Lingenfelter itself recommends you in the instructions to actually pin this, and that's what I'm doing. Kong sends it to you without the pin in it, and it looks like they might have put some blue Loctite on the shaft, which does nothing because it completely presses out when the hub is pressed on. So pinning on that shaft is just good insurance in my book. So that's what I did. I had the proper carbide drill to do so. That shaft is hardened. You cannot just use a regular drill bit. You will not be able to go through it. You need a carbide tool, okay? That's the only thing that's going to cut through there, and it's a 3/16 diameter carbide drill bit. So it's actually a drill reamer combination. It's not just a regular drill bit. So anyways, moving along. Brand new bearings and coupler here. Now, Kong went ahead and installed the old coupler, which is not good because the coupler has to be pressed on. It's one-time use because it gets pressed onto splines. Now the splines, when you remove the old one, has the old splines imprinted or embossed into the coupler ID. Now what happens is if you try to reinstall that, you're never going to line up perfectly with those teeth. So what's going to happen is you're going to just smash into kind of the splines at an offset pattern, and you might not get as good of a grip. So these couplers here are one-time use. Do not reuse these. Okay, you're going to risk the chance of slipping on the shaft if you do. So no matter who tells you, okay, when they come brand new, they are a smooth bore. And then once you take them off, you'll see that there's teeth pressed into them from the splines. And there's a reason for that, because they're one-time use. And if you go and reinstall it, it's just not going to be good. You're going to have possibility, like I said, of things slipping, and then you're going to be wondering why, ripping your hair out, what the hell's going on. So this is all brand new stuff, brand new bearings, coupler. I reused the shaft, obviously, reconditioned it, polished it up, made it nice, and took care of that. Also, I went ahead and took apart the bypass valve blade and shaft, cleaned everything up, greased up the bearings on either side, cleaned up the blade because it was absolutely nasty. I also went ahead and staked the screws and installed blue Loctite, I believe, on these screws. Yeah, I used blue Loctite. But staking the screws themselves is fine. That's just in case they start to back out, they're not going to go into your actual intake. So that's taken care of. It's nice and smooth. It's brand new, essentially. I reconditioned that blade, cleaned it up, make sure there's no burrs. I actually hit this with some sandpaper. It's like 400 grit sandpaper to smooth it out to provide a better seal. So that's something you might want to take a look at on yours. They do get kind of boogered up. There's this profile here where it seals on the aluminum housing is kind of like cut with a lot of chatter in the CNC tool. So there's not really the greatest finish. And when you shine a light on there, you can actually see through the chatter, like the peaks and valleys in the cutter. Okay? And this is going to make contact with the high spots, and then guess what? You don't have a good seal at the bottom of that cut. It's very microscopic, but you can see it when you shine a light in here and you kind of look on the other side. But that's taken care of. Bypass valve is all tuned up. I basically went over every aspect of this snout and every aspect of the blower and took care of it. It's essentially a brand new setup here, assembly. So there it is, Grip Tech pulley. I got a 14% lower on the car ATI super damper, obviously. And right now I'm planning out the fuel system. I have my Radium LS9 rails. I'm just planning out what I need for fittings and how to route the line. Alright, so I will elaborate more on the fuel system in just a little bit, but I want to show you guys what's going on here on the workbench with parts waiting to be installed on the car. We have the DC power 270 amp alternator, billet rear, front, and pulley. There is the Edelbrock heat exchanger that has been modified. I plan on adding in a second 3/4 inch bung to the inlet and outlet. So 2 3/4 inch will flow more than 1 inch line. Believe it or not, 13% more. Now that's going to be combined with dual Bosch 3/4 inch pumps. I'm going to do a custom intercooler setup on this. I know it's not your ordinary setup, but trust me, it's going to work well because I don't want to run a trunk tank. I don't have the need for ice. I'm not doing a lot of drag racing and things like that at the strip. It's just going to be a street car, and I want a lighter weight, effective setup. Okay, that's going to perform very well. Here we have the Injector Dynamics fuel filter with pressure and temperature sensor, Kong low vacuum bypass, Radium fuel regulator with gauge, and fuel pulse damper. This will cancel out the injector pulses in your fuel rail. Lots of benefits to that. K-Tech 112 throttle body, massive throttle body in black anodized finish. Looks awesome. The awesome looking Kong Performance dual pass lid with LSX Concepts inlets that are AN12. Okay, very good looking. All the fittings I use on my build on this car are all Vibrant brand, Vibrant Performance. So Vibrant's a very high quality fitting. All the parts so far are very high quality. I'm happy with the finish and the function of them. And I highly recommend them, even though they cost a little more money than your stuff you find on Amazon or eBay. Vibrant is the stuff you want. Okay, they are used in all sorts of builds out there, like RPM uses them in all sorts of big shops. So it's a really good company, really high quality product. But anyways, Kong dual pass lid. I will also be using and testing out the DSX lid as well with the Synergy Motorsports CR bricks and Synergy AN12 inlets. Now I'm going to go ahead and purchase that, and I'm going to run both lids, and I'm going to see what performs better on my car. You know, you don't know till you actually try it out, and I'm going to do a real-world test on the dyno and see how it does with my car. So that's going to be an ongoing project. Once I get it tuned, I want to run with one lid for a while, get kind of some data, get familiar with the lid, you know, what kind of levels I have for temperature, things like that. Different, you know, over a period of time to accumulate some information and data. That way you can make a confident decision and then test it up against the other lid. Okay, so that's going to be a future video, so stay tuned for that. Moving along, we have the Cord's Performance expansion tank. I like this tank because of two reasons. It has a cap because I can fill and purge the system a lot easier, and I can mount my Mighty Mouse catch can. I had to go ahead and make a relocation bracket because this mount is made for the standard stainless steel bracket, which they offer. This is the upgraded billet. It just did not fit compatibly with the way they have it here. So I had to go ahead and make a relocation bracket, but that wasn't a big deal. Now this tank here, this is the second tank I got. The same issue with the Kong Snout. This thing had all sorts of issues when I first got it. The cap itself would not thread on by hand, okay? So it would bind up, and it would only thread on like a half a thread. Going back and forth, telling them the issue, they sent me out a new one, which took some time because they had to actually fabricate the tank. They don't have these sitting on the shelf. So the actual cap was bad, not the tank, because this is the first tank with the second cap. So I had to kind of mismatch or pick one or the other from each kind of replacement. So I took the replacement cap and I put it in the original tank because they sent me out a whole new setup. But even that whole new setup, tank and cap, did not fit right. Had the same issue. It was binding up. It was a lot of drag in the threads because when they weld this on, most likely they warped the threads because they weld on this bung and cap assembly afterwards, or when they make this, they cut this first piece and then they would TIG weld it. So that was interfering with the actual function. The first one, like I said, you could not screw it on. It would bind up halfway through a thread. You could not even get it one full revolution. This one here spins on like it should, and it bottoms out on the inside O-ring. So this is perfect. But I have my own kind of, feedback for them. They could do things better. The first cap had plier marks on it because when they go to vacuum test it or pressure test it, they used a set of pliers on the cap and left a bunch of teeth marks on this nice new cap. Okay, and before and after the powder coating, because they do it before and after according to them. So there was evidence of that in the cap originally. I could tell that just by looking at it. So someone forced that cap on there, but anyways, now I have a functioning cap and tank, and I'm happy with the setup. So this also has AN12 fittings. Everything has AN12. So really happy with that. It just took some time back and forth, about a month, and I got a tank that's acceptable. You know, dealing with these aftermarket parts, sometimes you're going to have to go back and forth because these aftermarket companies do not have inspectors or quality control like a aircraft manufacturer or a aerospace company or a medical component manufacturer. They have departments for quality control, like literal people, the inspectors and engineers that they do nothing but quality. Okay, these aftermarket companies do not have that. Okay, they make you a part, they powder coat it, they weld it up, whatever needs to be done, hand port it, and then they ship it to you. Okay, in a state that they think is acceptable. Okay. Now, when you pay $500 for a tank, and you pay, I don't know, say $2,000 for something else, you do not expect for you to have to put additional work into it to make it acceptable and to put it on your car. It should come in a finished state, okay? So that's the kind of issue I'm struggling with this car build. I've gone back and forth with several companies because parts are either defective, just not acceptable, not functional, and you name it, all sorts of issues. Comp cams. So you see this right here, this is the BSR shaft rockers. Well, guess what? Comp cams themselves, or maybe even the vendor, I don't know. I can't tell for sure because the box was sealed when I got it. So I ordered the LS9, which is the LS3 shaft rockers, okay? The box was correct, the label on the outside was correct, but the actual shaft rockers on the inside of the box were from an LS7, and the only way I could tell is because they wouldn't fit properly on the heads, on the actual ARP studs that I'm using. Now, when I looked at it at first, I didn't realize that, okay, maybe this is wrong, but I went ahead and checked the actual part number, and it was an LS7 shaft rocker part. The actual shaft was an LS7 versus something that was supposed to fit for an LS3. So it was a huge mistake on comp cams. They fixed it. They sent me out a replacement one. That was bad news because different rocker ratio, the holes would not line up, so it was physically impossible to line everything up and put it on the car. So even brand new parts from a well-known company, they come screwed up, okay? Got the wrong part in the correct box, essentially. But there is a layout of the parts. Here I have the Kong carbon intake. I plan on doing some modification too. I'm gonna get to that soon. And let me show you the car really quick, I guess. Everything here, all the components are painted with that nice metallic black paint. Really nice look. And I went ahead and made my own supercharger blanket to isolate the heat coming off the motor. Custom bolts, stainless steel hardware on all the valve covers and all the exposed hardware that I'm going to be putting on the car. And fuel lines already ran. These are the Teflon lines that are, you know, a lifetime line, not the cheaper stuff. So this is Vibrant line. I ordered everything from Vibrant. They make great stuff, like I said. This is high quality stuff. It has a stainless steel braid in it along with the outside black nylon braid. So this is great stuff. Good fuel line, good high quality components are going to make for a good high quality build. I went with the 4 Innovations drop-in module and FC3 controller for the fuel system, for the fuel pump. The pumps themselves are TI Auto 274 for the primary and 285 for the secondary. That's going to provide 900 liters per hour of fuel. Okay, and that's essentially it for right now. I mean, I have everything kind of up in the air here. I have the parts all laid out. I'm kind of waiting to get the plumbing situated for the fuel system. That way I can go ahead and bolt down the supercharger because I want to fit certain stuff in a clean way, which means I want to route the line so you don't see them. And I don't want to do the common thing where people just run them up down the side and kind of, you know, creates a big cluster F, if you know what I'm talking about. I want to make it kind of a clean install on here, so it's going to take some time of me figuring out what's going to look the best. But now I'm going to go ahead and install the snout on the supercharger, get that all RTV'd up, make the gasket for the flange and the throttle body, and continue the process with the car. So lots of stuff coming up with the Corvette, and I can't wait to get it tuned and finally driving it. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions or comments, please place them right down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.